Hello, I'm Norma Teasy, and I'm here to talk a little bit about the McElroy Grant for 2015 and 2016. By now, you probably received an email with a link that takes you to the page that you see on your screen. And so I'm going to talk just briefly about this application process. First of all, you should see some guidelines as far as what is the purpose of the grant. McElroy is really looking for that individual teacher's idea. So it's designed for the individual classroom, not a school-wide project necessarily, um, but that teacher who has this little idea but just doesn't have quite enough money to fund it. Um, Students should be directly involved in the project, so it's not a project where you might want an iPad to keep track of student assessment for yourself. It's got to be a project where students are involved and students use whatever it is that you spend your money on. Um, Technology is good because that's innovative, but it's certainly not necessary to be awarded funding. They're looking for that innovative educational experience that's very good high practice. Um, some examples that have been funded in the past, and I'll use last year's examples and I'll point out a few. One idea that was funded was called Read and Ride, and it was where middle school students rode stationary bikes in the library while they were reading, and it was collaborated with a reading class, and so students were able to move and read at the same time. Another group of students went to a landfill and had some devices to check the temperature of the compost pile and the water that was in the pond and so forth. Um, we funded quite a few robots and coding projects. Um, a high school project was called The Greatest Theft, and it was where students learned about the Nazi theft of European art and the efforts of the monuments men during World War II. Um, One school studied raku in the art classroom, and I believe they had an expert come, and then they did a school-wide or a art-wide project. Another group of students did a project called Germinating Growth, where they grew a variety of vegetable plants and then harvested the vegetables, sold them, and then I believe they took some of the plants home and planted them in their own gardens too for the summer. One class created a space movie. Another teacher developed music centers in their elementary classrooms. But I've seen butterfly gardens. A couple of years ago, we funded a GoPro camera where the students flew the camera above their community, recorded the water flow during rain and that kind of thing, and then reported the data to the city council because there were some things they were going to recommend to improve the community. So those are some ideas. They're things that are just a little bit different that we don't always do every day. So then if I go back to my page, I notice that I've got some tips for downloading and applying. So what we expect that you probably will do is take a look at the rubric, and as you're writing the application, look at the rubric because that aligns directly with the questions. And then here's the grant application. And of course you download it to your desktop. It's a template, and then it'll open up, and then I would do a save as, and then name it, and then I would fill that off of my desktop, and then I'd be able to type right in it. So most of these questions are pretty cut and dry. I do want you to give me dates if you get funded so that I can come and view your project. I won't get to everybody's, but I will get to some. And everyone who gets funded has to submit a report by the time school is out in May, because then I have to in turn write a report to McElroy, and that's a requirement. If you don't fill that report out, then you're asked to give your funding back. So it's something you don't want to forget to do. And I won't let you forget. And then are the 6 questions. Now you'll notice 1 through 5 correspond directly on the rubric. Item number 6 is new this year and it's not scored. So you won't get any score for that, but that item number 6 is really intended to help the readers judge. Well, for example, let's say you ask for a camera, and the readers are saying, well, gee, don't you already have a camera? Or maybe you're asking for 5 cameras, and we only have $700 left, and you're asking for $800. Can you get by with $700 and maybe one less camera or one less piece of technology? So we kind of want to know, well, do you have other technology available? And that question has come up many times during our scoring process. Because sometimes the readers will say, well, you know what, they should have this already in their school. And so anything like that that will help convince the readers that, no, you don't have it in your school, or why do you need your own, would fit in that item number 6. And again, it's not scored. If you look at the rubric, you'll see that item number 6 on the rubric um, is a question that determines, well, did you follow the rules? Did you have good typing skills? Did you check for spelling and that kind of thing? One of the bullet points, the last one on that rubric, is did you leave your school name or town off of the application? And that's because we're trying to eliminate as much bias as we can so that the readers do not know what school district is applying for that particular project. But I think as I go through this, I'll start at the top. Describe the project you propose. Questions number 1 and 2, if you notice on the rubric, are each worth 10 points, and so they're weighted more than the others. This is your opportunity to explain to the reader what your project is all about. You don't say, we want a laptop to do such and such. You don't even have to mention what you need until you get to the budget question number 5. Questions 1 and 2 devote all your time, all your space to selling the reader on your idea. So that when the reader's done reading questions 1 and 2, he or she should know exactly what you're going to be doing in the classroom. What I would recommend is that you write this and then have someone read it who doesn't know anything about your idea and have them explain back how your project's going to work in the classroom. Because a lot of times the writers will write and they know all the background, but the readers don't, because the reader's coming into this cold. So I think that's a good idea to have someone else check over your work. Then number 3, we're just simply asking, well, how does your idea fit into what else is going on in your school? And so you should have some standards or benchmarks. We only want 1 or 2. We want those that most directly fit what your project is all about. And then if it relates to personalized learning or any of the other initiatives that you've going on, mention that too. You also, you're limited to 2 pieces of paper. So when you're done, you've got your overall application. That's 1 piece. Actually, counting that would be 3. But when you respond to your questions, you should have those in no more than 2 pieces of paper. So check that out. If you do this all online and send email, make sure when you print it out, it only prints to 2 pages. Otherwise, we'll cut off your last pages. So you don't want that to happen. So 2 pieces of paper. You do have to leave the questions on, size 12 font, and then put your response right below. But you can give more space to questions 1 and 2 if need be, and then less space, of course, to for example, number 5 doesn't need to be really long, and number 6 doesn't need to be really long. Number 5, usually people do that in 2 columns. They put the item in the left column and then the price in the second column. Going to question number 4, we're looking for research. What says that this is really good practice? Have you done any background work to know that research says this is really going to work? Then provide information on your budget. One thing I'd like you to do is don't include things in your budget just to get the $2,000. And we've had readers feel that people are just like padding their budget so that they can get $2,000 worth of stuff when they really only needed $1,500. So only include items that really pertain to your topic. And don't say, well, $2,000 for a laptop, because I know laptops don't cost them even $2,000. So you need to do your homework on that and list exactly what it will cost. And then I think we've touched on number 6. And then I'll look at the rubric one more time here. And this is what it looks like. Notice here's where I said the first 2 questions are worth 10 points. And I think it's pretty specific. You don't want to be over here indicators of concern. You want most of your points to be in the 9 or 10 area, or in the next questions, they only go up to 5. You need to be scoring in the 4 and 5, because this is a competitive application process. And again, it talks about that research, eligible expenses, and then did you follow the rules? And the top one is, here are my 1 or 2 standards and benchmarks, so it aligns pretty closely with the questions. So again, as you're writing your questions, look at these bullets and try to address as many of those as you can into your project. That's about all I have. Again, the deadline, I think we're pretty clear, is Friday, October 23rd at 4:30 p.m. You can put it on the van, or you can send me an email. If you send me an email, maybe put McElroy in the title or the subject line, and maybe send me another email and say, did you get it? And I'll be watching very carefully for that. The readers will read the grants and score them in November. Hopefully we'll be done by Thanksgiving time. The quickest way to find out if your project is awarded is to keep watch on our webpage. That'll be the first place it gets announced. And then it'll take us a few days or probably a week, and we'll send out individual letters to everyone, whether you were received funding or not. And then what happens is it has to go to our board. They have to just approve the amount, and then that money, if you're awarded money, gets sent to your business office. And so it'll be up to you then to check to see if you have it. And then you're expected to complete the project in the second semester and be done by the end of May. So any questions, feel free to give me a call or send me an email. Thank you.